Hello, Steamy friends. The Steam Deck 2 has just been revealed. No, it hasn't. I'm lying. And it might not be for a while, it turns out. And that's actually pretty great. All of a sudden, I have high hopes for Steam, and I'm starting to think that Steam might have just entered a market they can dominate in. And looking at the Steam Deck 1 and how successful it was, maybe it was obvious to a lot of you. In back of my mind, I thought maybe it was a throwaway idea. I didn't know how far this would go. I didn't know if we would get other Steam Decks. But now all of a sudden, with an article that just came out and we're covering today via PC Gamer, it seems like this could be the equivalent as when Microsoft entered the console market with the Xbox. It kind of came out of nowhere. But then all of a sudden, we had the Xbox 360. Well, it kind of went downhill from there. There's a lot to talk about, so let's react. So Valve has said, in quotes, "Not really fair to your customers to create yearly iterations of something like the Steam Deck." Right off the rip, before we get into anything else, I want to say, a company as large as Steam saying anything prefaced with "not really fair to your consumers, to your customers," is just a giant relief to hear. I don't think we hear that mentality coming out of giant corporations much these days, and it's nice to feel like somebody actually has our back. They are 100% spot on. It is not fair to create these yearly, sometimes more frequently than yearly iterations of hardware. You look at Neo, which they started sending me consoles for my ReactEmUps channel years ago, and it was really exciting at first. But then they sent me their next console 6 months later, and then their next one 6 months after that. And then it got to the point where I would be making a video for a console they sent me while they were revealing the next console. Like, I couldn't even get the review out of my early copy before they announced the next one. And it became not fair to me to showcase all these things to my audience and make them feel like they want to buy something that's instantly outdated. And they totally shot themselves in the foot. And now I think a lot of people in the know kind of look at Neo with disdain. Like, they don't want to get on board with any of their products. Asus with the ROG Ally, and they've done a really good job so far with their hardware. They released a really cool competitor to the Steam Deck, and then they released a revision a year later that was the same thing, but a little better. Also, Asus regularly releases refreshes of everything that they do in the hardware space every year, so I don't see any reason why this handheld console would be any different. But again, they're in a different position than Steam is. Steam is actually able to do what other console competitors can do. Release hardware, take a loss on the hardware, but then rely on people buying their games and their software sales. Steam, while they don't make a ton of their own IPs, there's not many things on a Steam Deck you can buy that Steam actually published themselves, but you are locked into using Steam's store. So everything you buy on there, Steam does get a cut of that, and they're relying on that. That's part of why this works so well for them as a console. That's part of why they can say it's not fair to consumers to release a yearly iteration, and they can wait to release a better one because they're still making money in the meantime on Steam Decks every time somebody picks one up and then buys a game. And I do get it with Asus and ROG Ally, they don't have their own Steam store. They don't have their own store where you can give them software sales. So once they sell their console, that's the money they get out the door, and then they've got to make another one if they want more money. It's also why ROG Ally and competitor handhelds are more expensive, because they can't afford to sell their hardware at a loss. Manufacturing cost plus a little more so they can make a profit, which is why competitor handhelds are $1,000 and the Steam Deck is $400-$500, but they're pretty much equivalent in what they can both do, because Steam can afford to do that because you'll be buying their games on the Steam store. I love having that conversation because I think a lot of people don't think about that when they think about prices of all these handhelds and why some companies might constantly push out refreshes and new hardware every year, I want to just focus in on Steam Deck and why I think this is so exciting. They're, instead of releasing yearly, waiting for a generational leap in computing power without sacrificing battery life. Now, I've been doing a lot of hypotheticals recently. My last video was definitely a big hypothetical of painting this fictional world where video game prices could be all over the place. In my head, I'm also painting a fictional world right now where Steam actually enters the handheld market. I mean, they have done that, but they consistently keep it up. Big releases every few years. Every time there's a generational increase, they can release a new handheld PC that's able to do more than the previous one and to keep up with the increasing quality of games that get released to the Steam store all the time. They're really set in the position to be the leading competitor to Nintendo with a handheld console on the market, to be the powerful handheld. You think about previous years, if Nintendo have had any competition in the handheld space, I would say the PSP, the PlayStation Vita, and that was to counteract the 3DS and the DS and the Game Boys of that era. That's really the only strong, and I'm using strong loosely in this sense, competition for Nintendo in the hardware space. For the home console space, they've been competing with Xbox and PlayStation for the longest time. Obviously, pros and cons to each, and that's what makes the console wars, especially in the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and Wii U era, so fun, because each thing gave you something different. And it was clear that PlayStation and Xbox were the more powerful competitor than Nintendo, but Nintendo hasn't really had any real competition in the hardware space. The PS Vita and the PSP were more powerful, but they weren't very successful, mostly due to their library being pretty much all just JRPGs, which was great for JRPG fans, but didn't have wide appeal. Here we actually have the PlayStation or Xbox home console equivalent of a more powerful console. In this case, for Switch's handheld, we have Steam's Steam Deck that has this giant marketplace of video games where you can pick up all the latest and greatest releases and you can play them in high fidelity with an OLED screen and whatever else on the Steam Deck. And that's obviously why the Steam Deck was so successful. And they did release their own revision with an OLED screen a year and a half after the original released, but I think that was a refresh that was sorely needed and definitely improved the Steam Deck a lot. But a refresh like that doesn't demand the need to go and pick it up. It's not that different like going from the regular Switch to the OLED Switch. It wasn't a generational leap and it wasn't super necessary. Just like if you haven't jumped up to the OLED Switch yet, same thing. Steam could easily taint this experience, though, by constantly releasing new Steam Decks. So to say they're not interested in that and they want to wait for a generational leap, then you're in the same territory that Nintendo is in with the Switch, releasing this quality hardware that everybody knows and trusts, that they'll wait for and get excited for, the Steam Deck 2, whenever it eventually comes out, and everyone will pick it up and be excited because they've had so much fun and they've enjoyed their original Steam Deck for the last several years. I think Steam are putting themselves in a really good place here with this mentality, and what I would love to see is for Steam to come back to making video games. I think that would push this over the edge and really create demand and excitement for the Steam Deck beyond people who just already play Steam games on their PC and want to take them portable. But imagine a world where they're making these hardware consoles and they realize they can start making exclusive games for them. You'd be able to play them on PC, of course, as well, but it would give an extra reason for somebody who maybe doesn't have a PC to go out and buy the handheld. In general, I just think that would be so good for their ecosystem. I've been really surprised that they've been so hesitant to do it for all of these years. I mean, I'm not saying they have to go and pull a Microsoft and buy out a ton of studios to start making games for them, but they have the money. If they really wanted to just buy some game studios and start making even some indie experiences that are exclusive to the Steam store, why not? But of course, they also make their own games. They've always made their own games. They're currently making Deadlock, which I've played a little bit of that. It's not bad, but it is another MOBA. I wouldn't mind them branching out and trying something unique and different. But the world I'm imagining is a world where Steam is releasing hardware at a maybe a little bit more of a frequent rate than Nintendo is releasing their handhelds, and maybe even putting out their own games again. Of course, you know, once it's on Steam, doesn't stop someone from buying a ROG Ally, downloading the game on Steam, and then they have that Steam exclusive on their ROG Ally. Again, the ROG Ally is twice as expensive. That's definitely a choice that somebody has to make to buy into that. I'm just saying it would give somebody more of a reason to pick up the more affordable Steam Deck if there were some more exclusive and fun experiences and new releases coming out. And ultimately, it would feel like I said, that entry point that Microsoft had when they bought into the gaming marketplace with Xbox. They only need a couple of games. Xbox really only had Halo for a long time, Fable, and then Gears of War. Steam only has to put out a couple of games. One of them can be Half-Life 3. Maybe Half-Life 3 comes with the Steam Deck 2 if you buy it on launch day or something like that. There's just some really cool things they can do there. I mean, I haven't dived down the rabbit hole and fleshed out all my ideas, but something like that would be really exciting, and I think would see a massive boom for Steam Deck 2 on release if they released it with an exclusive game like Half-Life or anything, you know? But it'd be adjacent to when any console like Nintendo releases a new console that has Mario 64 on launch or Breath of the Wild. Release Steam Deck 2 with a big exclusive Steam game. This could be a really exciting thing. It could be beyond just Steam is making a really quality handheld that you can buy and it's affordable. It could be more than that. We could go further with this. That's just the world I'm envisioning, but baseline, I just thought it was so cool to hear that Steam is focusing on releasing quality, generational leaping type experiences for people rather than shoveling out handhelds every year like their competitors are probably going to be forced to have to do. But what do you guys think? I'd love to know. Do you have a Steam Deck? I honestly do adore my Steam Deck. I'm still playing through Midnight Suns on mine. Let me know your thoughts. Like, comment, and hair flip on that subscribe button. See you next time.